Hello and welcome to another update video about FETCH.AI FET. Covered it yesterday. We talked about that it might be in this sort of impulsive channel out of which it even broke to the upside, and that it might reach here the previous resistance at 55 cents. Now it did even overshoot that a bit, but it's exactly at that point now. So it's getting interesting. No strong rejection yet. Yes, I mean, it got rejected off this previous high, but we talked about this previous resistance here, and it had resistance here as well around that time, and then previously here back in 2021 as well. Yeah, so it certainly is something interesting to watch. I did explain yesterday that we could have here also with FET something like a possible, I can't remember, was that this coin or did I talk about another coin? But it's very similar, where we see a little bit of a possible cup shape accumulation phase. It's not exactly round down there, which makes it a bit unreliable, but large accumulation, okay? And what you sometimes get is this sort of cup and handle, and against this level would be an ideal level around this 55 cent level possibly, from where we could then rally further to the upside if it eventually breaks. Now that would be pretty much in line with a possible Elliott wave count, where we're saying, all right, you know, maybe we had 5 waves up. It's not a reliable 5-wave move at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's possible, and that might be a wave 1, and we could get this as an ABC correction here in a wave 2, and then we rally in a third wave. That's normally how this cup and handle works from an Elliott wave point of view. But it's too early to say that, right? First, we would need a retracement to really talk about that. At the moment, all we see is move down, long sideways, and now move up, which is quite impulsive, which, you know, it might suggest further trend continuation. But the breakout point here is clearly the 55 cent level. We came to that level, and I go to the 1-hour chart. You see it in a bit more detail. So we broke out of that channel, which is certainly, which certainly has some bullish implications. It doesn't make any sense at this stage to count really the waves in much more detail. Reason is, if I zoom out, we have here a pretty unreliable move to the upside back in 2021. You can easily count this as an A wave, a B wave down, and even a C wave up. So it's an unreliable chart, unfortunately. Now it's a little bit better than, for example, AGIX, which has a very, very short chart history, which is not really usable. At the moment, I'm looking at this here as a 1-2-1-2 setup, and we could really be in this third wave as well. We talked about that yesterday, talked about all-time high targets around 147 to 180, but I explained much more that it can easily go way higher. So it's certainly an interesting coin. However, in the very short term, all we see at the moment is an impulse. And, you know, we are tracking it, and at the moment it appears to me that we had here a 1-2-1-2 setup. This might have been a 3, here a 4 due to the sideways movement, and that we get a very much extended 5th wave here. Be aware that these waves can always extend out further until we see a reversal signal. And at the moment I don't see any reversal signal. We even break above the impulsive channel to the upside, but this is when it gets really, really overheated. Now that doesn't suggest it will come down now, but it means that it's getting very overheated. Yeah, so just be aware. I mean, this is now rallied significantly, but that's what cryptos do. They are very volatile. Now the thing is, this could even be a 1-2-1-2-1-2 setup, but this was for me a little bit too shallow to be wave 2, so I rather count it as a 3-4. Had another entry point here for anybody who wanted to scale up, and then now here. Yeah. Now in terms of possible targets, well, what can we do? We can use here the length of the third wave and look at possible fib extension targets. First, we'll do that first, and then we take a look at. So we've now reached, and we take a look at structural resistance as well. So what we always need, you know, to get a little bit more clarity about a wave count is a strong retracement. I would like to see at some point here a 1-2 setup. Now this starts to look fairly similar to what QNT did earlier. It was the end of last year, which was also a pretty extended move to the upside, but at some point it will come down. Okay, so just be aware of that. Now at the moment we are looking here at the area of around 60 cents for the next fib resistance, which is the 1.618 FIB extension at 61 cents. Then we have 69.7, which is the 200% extension. And then afterwards, yeah, you talk about, 84 cents, the 2.618 extension. Certainly would pay close attention to the current level here, the 55-cent level, but we seem to be coiling up just below that, so it would strongly suggest at this stage trend continuation. Now, be aware these, because it's so overheated, this can easily come down very quickly. So what I mean is, at the moment I don't see any sign of a reversal, but things can change very quickly if the market is so overheated. And the distance from the last moving, the relevant moving average, which is here the 20-day, we're 43% away. That suggests at some point, these have to move together again, because that's the whole point of a moving average. It's an average. So you will always get that reversion to the mean at some point. But again, it still carry on higher. And at the moment, momentum is still pushing higher. But this is the next, 55 cents is the structural resistance. And then we've got the 1.618 extension at 61 cents, 69.7, 78.5, and 83.9. But it's a bit too early to really talk about that. I think this needs now at some point a, let's call it a wave 2, because this is now a 5-wave move basically complete, which doesn't mean it has to come down now, but it means it has enough waves complete to come down, which means at some point what we should be getting is this as a wave 1, here wave 2, 3, 4, 5. So, which means this will be another entry point. Now wave 2s can be rather shallow, but ideally we get a deep wave 2. So I'm looking forward to that. I already took some profits of my AI coins, but I'm cautious not to take too much. I don't have FET, but I have AGIX, SDAO, VAI, and VXV. So I think FET wasn't available on my exchange when I tried to buy. But yeah, eventually, ideally, what you get in a more bullish move is those 5 waves up, which would then complete this third wave there, which I'll change the color of, yellow third wave. Then we should still get a fourth. So that's the bullish view. Yeah, that's the bullish view. Now, what you can never rule out is that what we're doing at the moment is just an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave, and we will make another low afterwards. But if we come down into this wave 2 support area, then we will be, which I cannot define now because we don't have a sustained top in place. So at the moment, short-term continuation is preferred, but I would urge everybody just to think about the risk in their portfolio while markets are moving up, and what could happen if we come down to your portfolio, right? I mean, are you leveraged, are you not? Just be aware of that. If you buy or sell is an individual decision, of course. I decided to take some profits, but because I see them more as a long-term investment as well, I keep hold of the majority. Nevertheless, I mean, not too long-term investment, but I want to, participate in the hype a bit further. Nevertheless, if you come down, or if we come down in this wave 2, it might be a possibility to scale up for the third wave, or if it's an ABC, you can trade the C wave. Now, if we zoom out a little bit to talk about structural resistance, yeah, I mean, what you clearly see is we have come really to a pivot point from a structural point of view. This swing high, I mean, if we talk about physical or structural resistances, we have here 55.6, then we've got 65.8. And then, I mean, if we get above that level, it could free up the way all the way into this region here around $1. Obviously, $1 will be an absolute key level. So I wouldn't be surprised to get there in this rally, but I think it needs a wave 2 ideally before that. I mean, getting a wave 1 to that level would absolutely be a bit too strong without any further retracements. But we'll see, I will certainly keep you updated, because this is now getting very interesting. Now, if you look at what it did before, when these start to run, they can rally without any sort of stronger retracements. But then we had a wave 1, 2 set up here. 1, 2. And this was then, in the end, another 1. Yeah. Ideally, it would have been a 1, 2, 3, shallow 4, and a 5th, but it was not a shallow 4, which makes the entire chart a little bit less reliable. And obviously we had down here the 1, 2 setups, which we talked about in the member live stream many weeks ago. So yeah, And that's where we are with FETCH.AI FET. Volume still on the good side, right? Here we are now in the overbought range on the RSI. Now I always warn about saying, right, a rally can go on for longer than it would seem reasonable. And I know a lot of people are waiting for a retracement. And I'm also, when we get this, I always like to see retracements. The reason I want to see retracements is it gives me confidence in the structure. When you see these extensions, it's not really much you can work with. Yeah, I mean, I want to see stability in a chart, ideally, and I want to see it make progress. I want to see it move from wave to wave. Because when it gets into a wave 2 and then it makes a higher low, I can say with large certainty we'll probably get a wave 3 to the upside. But here it's just extension, and you need to keep close eye on the chart to understand when the move down is sort of starting, right? But yeah, I warn about getting too crazy about overbought levels, because if you look at a lot of people think, and that's a fallacy, it's a mistake. A lot of people think that if something is getting into the overbought range, it will come down soon. Now it doesn't. It just means we are in a strong rally. Now, if you look at here, February 21, we were only here and we were overbought on the daily. But this can carry on for a while. Yeah, I mean, since it was overbought for the first time, this thing rallied another 200%. So, you need to consider that when you look at these indicators. They are helpful to confirm, for example, an Elliott wave count, but they are not necessarily too useful when we talk about overbought, oversold. Now, especially the lower time frames. Now, the longer the time frame, the more reliable they get. And this is now interesting because on the 4-day chart previously, whenever we came really into the overbought region, we were getting closer to a spike. Okay, so I mean, depending on how high, this is now the highest reading we've ever had on the 4-day chart. Now, that in my opinion increases downside risk, because we're talking about the 4-day chart now. Here we had it before when we spiked here on the 20th of January. This basically was perfect call for downside. Then we had another spike. Now here we were only like 50% there, yeah, maybe, yeah. And then we had a bearish divergence. The divergence, however, gave you a really good signal. And then we had another spike here, which was a larger bearish divergence, and was another signal that this is coming to an end. Now currently we don't see any divergence. So while it's the highest reading, it means only at the moment this is a strong uptrend. Ideally we are going to see a divergence here. Now you don't always see a divergence, I need to say that as well. Sometimes you get sudden retracements without any divergence. But if we look at the history here, we had a nice divergence in 21, and also here end of 21, yeah, bearish divergence. Now let's look at the weekly chart. We can see anything there. The weekly as well. These RSI spikes called the tops really nicely. Then we saw a bearish divergence at that high. Now at the moment here as well, we are not at the all-time high yet on the weekly chart, but also here monthly MACD is still pushing higher. So at the moment, all I'm saying is there is no sign really that it's stopping, and momentum is still growing, to be honest. But we need to pay close attention to some of these divergences which could be appearing. Yeah? What is going to be interesting is now on the 2-week chart. Are we going to get that cross above the 0 line, which is generally bullish signal, and we're just heading into overbought on the 2-week RSI. Here we were way higher before, yeah? And the monthly chart is only just now crossing bullish. Yeah, it's only the first time that we've really had a bullish crossover so far on the monthly, and this is not overbought yet. And we were overbought here end of 2021. No, it was actually this was actually in April 2021. But you see how high this can go, right? Therefore, I'm going to hold on at the moment the majority of my AI coins. But I took initial investments out, sort of in total. Didn't touch 2 of these AI coins, but took more out of other coins. So, I'm sort of comfortable. Important is not to get too greedy here. Still buying in is an individual decision, I would always wait for a retracement, but that's only me. This can still very clearly go, this could go easily still to $1 from here. Yeah. If you look at what it did before. Now, it's not a must to get the wave 2. This extends out further until we see a signal for a retracement, and the signal could be something like a break of a trend line to the downside. So you could draw a trend line here, just maybe increase it a little bit in steepness, and then you get, again, trend lines are subjective, but this is probably still a fairly well-defined one where you have 3 touch points, more or less, yeah, and a break of that could signal a stronger move. But let's say we come down straight away from here, it already is like a, what is it, like a 20% drop to touch the trend line. If it came down now to touch the trend line, okay, 16%, 17%, just be aware of that. Okay, and try to make the best decisions for yourself and the portfolio. Okay, and that's my update about FETCH.AI. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.